Hello everybody, Sorry here, playing Instruments of Destruction, and I thought it was a good time to start to make a tutorial for the game. Show you some tips and tricks, and yeah. First we're gonna go through the menus, then we're gonna go into build mode, and yeah. We're gonna go from there. So, first off we're going to go to options. Of course you have the UI sound, world, civic sounds, and the music sounds, which on me is 0 because I don't. You have shaky cam on off, you can turn that on and off. Focus on build parts, very useful. If you click somewhere it goes there with the camera. We have the physics options. If you turn all this on and high and turn it on, it can be pretty heavy on your computer, so you have to have a beefy computer, especially if you make big builds. With the part count now up to 750. This is for controllers. I don't use controllers, so I have it show controllers. I thought I had that turned off. Okay. I'll show controls. That's on the screen. Yeah, leave that. Gamepad menu and control. Gamepad controls turned off because I don't use it. This is a nice one. Standard. The game has a space for build mode. If you're used to a lot of different games, you might have used space for thrust or shooting in games. You might hit space in game and just go back to build mode. I had that issue. I asked the dev if he could make B build mode, and then he made it a toggleable option, even better, so you could choose. So I have it turned to B, so you can do that. You can have the UI color scheme, make it a little bit darker or make it inverted. I like it a little bit dark, but then again for the video I might leave it just bright. You have your brightness, language. If you want a different language added in there, you can select it. Alternate fronts, it's a little bit more beefy, more straight. I think I like this one better actually. Yeah, so. Credits, default controls, you set everything. You have your shadows and graphics fidelity. I had it a little bit low now because I had some big builds with a lot of magnets in the hope to get the game less laggy, but the God Hand doesn't like it when you use it. So all the normal options, you can turn your blur off, whatever you don't want to use. I have film grain off and vignette off, bloom. I wanted to turn off, but I think it only goes to medium. Or I didn't want to turn it off. I wanted it less because it reflected on the materials on the parts, for especially metal parts, and all the other things you can do. Concrete rebar. You can show that clearly. Grass shadows, full grass interactions. I leave that all on. Put the grass a little lower for me, but whatever you want. Water details, because you're mostly on land, and unless you can make something that flies on water, the water details do not need to be high, or even medium for that sake. Resolution, the option to choose your resolution full in the list. Standard, he has a few, the dev has some standard resolutions. I also asked for that because I couldn't get the 920 1080 for my ultra wide screen. Yeah, sorry. So and I needed that to record these videos, because or else you get your video on YouTube in a very weird shape and form and very stretched. So V-Sync, full screen, yeah. All those normal things, but especially I like the game mode toggle, very useful, and for people who record might be the resolution. So that's the main menu option. Then we go to the game. Well, you have the normal game mode, just this, with all your level selections, and then you can just go, but you can play the game. You have your sandbox. You can choose your levels from there. I'll go to structure mode, and in the sandbox settings you have some extra things you don't have in the normal gameplay mode. You have extra gravity choices. Heavy, no gravity, heavy gravity. I usually just leave that on standard. unless you might want to build a spaceship of sorts. Game speed can also be normal. The lower you set it, the less heavy it is on your game. So that's a thing you can do. Powered explosions, these are your cannons, barrels. If they explode extra strong. This one in tough structures is normally off. And then when you hit them, they break more easily. And this makes it tougher. I find this fun, for instance, if I want to do weird things with buildings, like launch them into the sky, then a tough structure is very useful. Structure collapses, they will slowly start breaking after a while if the structure is too weak. Apparently you can turn that off. I never really noticed an effect, but hey. Okay, now we're going to continue on to build. So here you go. Of course, you have your settings, and yeah, there you can go back to your menu and go to the sandbox settings, which you can only change in build mode, or at least tough structures you can only change in build mode. You have to be in build mode, not while you're in the game, because the game has to change that before you go in. You have your vehicle, manager, save, load vehicles, very logical. Showcase vehicles, these are the things that were pre-built by the devs and by influencers on YouTube, like Dre, Scrapman, Khan Gaming I think made one. I think the Chain Flail is from Scrapman, yeah. C-Top, all those good YouTubers. You have your Steam Workshop, where you can upload your current vehicle, browse vehicles, and you can search on different categories and sort by result, most highest rated. For some reason it doesn't start with that immediately, so these are the most highest rated vehicles apparently. Or most recent, sorry, I clicked the wrong one. And the most highest rated are these. So you can look at what you're subscribed to by just clicking there. I'm subscribed to some of my own vehicles because they're on a different computer, so I can use them here. Made by me, this is what is on my computer. Some of the things have been loaded here, saved here again, so yeah, the God Hand building launcher. When I was working with custom images, it's always nice. So, that way you can search, find what you want. If you want something for demolition, of course, you can just click there and just find all kinds of goodies. So, and here you have the reset button. I would like it, and I don't know if the dev is going to do it, if he puts this button somewhere in the vehicle build mode. Now you have to go to menu to reset the vehicle, and if you do reset and this vehicle is saved, you will start with your cab out again, which is useful. So we can immediately go into build mode itself. You have the play button here. That's just the play, which in this case is B on your keyboard. You have your mirror mode, very useful. That's useful with structures, frames, all those kind of things. Remember, however, with moving parts, it will also mirror the parts. So one part will go up and one part will go down on the other side. So remember that. You have all your toggles which show you where everything is and what's named. And very important, you have your show advanced, which I advise you to turn on from the start. It will take up a little bit of your screen, but hey, it is what it is. This gives you more options. For instance, if you click on something, the cabs don't have anything extra, but I'll show you as we go with moving parts, you get more options. Strength, speed, all kinds of things depending on the parts. So, now we're going to the parts list or library. We have 3 cabs, or cockpits as I like to call them. You have your standard cab with a connection on the back and behind, and we have your cab, which is something like a digger cab, kind of the idea with only a connection on the bottom, and the one I use the most is the horizontal cab, which has the connections on the sides for connecting to a tank frame. You have your wheels, powered wheels, power slot wheels, and powered gigantic wheels. All the wheels with steering on them do not have power, except the large combo wheel. We have a small wheel which has the combination of steering and power, and we have the medium-sized wheel with power and steering. And immediately we can look here at the advanced menu. This is what you would normally always show, this bit. Now you get the extra options. Now the tuning strength, you can be more precise. You have, when you press normal strength, you have 2, 3, 0.5 and 1 again. You have your angles, which connected things. In this case it's just spinning on a vertical axis, and with the wheel you don't really see that. You also have the extra option on a lot of parts, which is the expand. In this case it adds an extra wheel. Sometimes it makes the wheels bigger, depending on the parts. I think tank threads have no such options. If a vehicle has multiple connections like the tank threads, you have the connector option, which allows you to jump between the connections. Same for structures and all those kinds of things. Let's remove this. But here you can change your strength. This is more in 0 ones. You can be far more precise if you want to be. You can change your max angle from to 36 to, well, 0 of course. Your max and minimal angles, which can be useful on hinges if you only want to move one direction. For a steering hinge, it's always useful if it returns to center. Makes it more easy. You can also do the manual by turning it off, then you have to steer back yourself. And a lot of parts have the moving parts and turning parts and engine parts have the reinforce option. This will mean that the wheel will be stronger, but less bendy at the joint. And of course you also have the directional button, which means that when you press forwards you will go backwards, and when you press backwards you will go forwards, and you can turn that around again. So these are all the wheels options and tank thread options. Tank threads, by the way, have the options here in reverse steering. That means if it's connected to, for instance, this side, you can turn this reverse steering on and will steer the same direction as the other thread, or else it will try to. Before this option, it was one wheel was going one way and the other wheel was going the other way. Not very useful. Okay. On tanks you also have the options, and on some wheels maybe also is toggle, slider, and a normal. A normal is just when you push you will get the set strength. The toggle is just press the button and it will keep on going. The button becomes a switch. And slider is you can set to a maximum speed and a turning speed. This will mean that if you well, if we just go, let's see, I will show you. You go out of build mode, you can set a speed. You can go very slow, and you can see it here in the right corner, though it's a bit, let's see, yeah, it's better without the grass, you can see it better. You can set your speed, and you can tune how fast, a lot of things you can tune how fast the slider works. So that's that. Sliders are on servos, on hinges. So now we come to the flight tab, which has still a lot of stuff coming. We have the small thruster, the big thruster. Well, it does what it does. Yeah? Provides thrust at a certain speed, also with toggle options, slider options, and normal. So whatever you want to do, you can do. Sliders can be useful, for instance, if you want to make something hover. I found it myself that to be the input from it to be a little bit the thruster takes a little time to get up to power, so I use a different way to control the thrust. Yeah, you can change your controls. So that's a thrust, that's the balloon, which can make your vehicle float. if you use that, you'll just go whoop, goodbye. This is so light, and this is on a toggle, so it goes from 0 to max. If you do it on a slider, it will be better. So. And then we go to the frame, or simple frames. This is mostly frames with a two connections, the start and the end part. There are bends, angles, there are straight parts, and each part, like the wheels, some parts, like the wheels, have options. The small frame has nothing. The bigger frame, XL, can go extra large. That can save some parts, which means you can use those parts in different places. I think the heavy blocks have no options. The arch can go multiple times, so that's a very important thing to remember. You can go big, big, and small again, and change your connection points. The game usually doesn't like it when you, for some parts, doesn't like it when you try to cycle the connections after changing the width. Or this, you cannot extend in that cycled mode, but you can extend it in this mode. But then you can cycle again after that. So you usually try to get your correct size and then change your connection if you want to. And of course we can turn this around. So we have some new parts, the rollers, which also have an expand option. This one goes in the length, and I think the large roller goes also in the length, or in the width, becomes wider, bigger. You have the panels, which is a very thing you might think, oh, it can expand only once. No, it can expand 2 times to become a square plate again, but bigger. Alas, with only 1 connection point. Maybe in the future the devs will put more connection points on it. He is looking at it. So you have the cover square. I think that there's no options now. That's that. And the round cover, also no options. The frames are what they are. You have multiple connections. Split weight can be useful if you want to make something a little bit thinner, though not much. You could change the connection like that and have a connection next to it. Also, if you want to go from 2 to 1, or from 1 to 2, split connector. All the different kinds of corners, you can all figure that out for yourself. And the new 6-way mini, that's half smaller than the bigger blocks. So if you want to build something which is smaller, more compact, use that. And X is delete. And now we have the moving parts, or motion. This fast swivel, this is for speed, less torque, more speed. And all can be reinforced. You can tune the speed, and you can of course choose again toggle, slider, normal. And yeah, and the same with the power swivel. That's a slower but stronger swivel. The 90 degrees. Well, it all says what it does. If you just read the description. This is especially useful if you want something with a side connection on it. So not right in front of it, but on the sides. If you want to make something which connects that way without having to use extra parts. We have the power hinge. Oh, it's a hinge. It moves up and down. You can choose the angle above 90, so it can even move a little bit more backwards. And also has the return to center option, so you can also use it for steering, what a lot of people do. I think this one has no return to center option. I think it's mostly the hinge in this case. You have the power arm, less angle, no 90 degrees, so barely not. But this one is way stronger, as the name suggests, of course. Then we have the pistons, which has a option some parts don't have. That's the normal activation, of course. Auto retract, auto extend. This means then when the game starts, it will push out immediately, which you can use for all kinds of builds, of course. And you also have the oscillation option, which depending on your strength will determine the speed. But if you press the button for it, it will keep on doing this, or in this case toggle. One of the buttons with oscillation will be toggle. So if you look at this, we have the up and down keys here as inputs, which you can also change by the way by just clicking a different set of buttons. I hope we'll get free selection at each part on what input it will be, but you can choose different buttons. You don't have to keep the arrow keys where they are, or use the arrow keys. You can also change the buttons, but we'll come to that later. But like I said, with oscillation, one key is just press and hold, and it will do the oscillation. The other key is a toggle, and yeah, that's that. Different kind of pistons, all the same function, but just different connections and different distances that they go. We have the slider. This is just a slider on a rail, which will move the rail up and down. In this case, again with the arrow keys, and it will go like this, and it will go like that. Different speed settings, and also I think an oscillation option on it. So if you not all the one, yeah, oscillation. So if you use it, if you for instance put a okay, that's not my intention, but as you can see, I move around like that. You could use this for a walker, maybe. You can use this to put a blade on it and have the blade move around as you drive. Very useful. And then we have the utility. These are the racking equipment. You have the feet, the heavy foot. This is kind of like a suction cup kind of idea. You can change the strength. And this is for putting on the ground. Or when you're making a crane, you have the stability foots that can come down, or you're making a walker, or you just want to make something that smashes something, you can use this, and maybe a part will even stick to it. So simple options, only strength. You can increase the size of it, the length, so that's nice. Blades, also no options, it just cuts, except expanding. I think the spike ball has no options at all, yeah. Just a, oh, that's the cap where I'm clicking on. So that doesn't do, it doesn't change anything. The spike, also like the blade, can extend. The hook, I haven't used it that much. It's one size fit and no change. We have the wrecking ball, also that's the size and it doesn't become any bigger. The steel orb, this one is special in some way. You can change the size, which will also increase the mass, and this thing is pretty heavy. This does not connect to the vehicle. If you use this thing, it will be loose, so make sure you catch it when you want to use it, or use a magnet to manipulate it. So, but in build mode it will stick. But however, if you want to, for some reason, want to move it, just take any kind of block, or take a normal size block, or let's in this case take this one, and then take the ball and connect it to that, and then just delete the intervening part, and now you can move it around, which is, by the way, for all parts. If you disconnect them from the vehicle, you can just move it around. You can also use this, just a quick one. If you build a cage around this, you can control it with a magnet and connect anything and everything to it. You can clip in this game, no problem. This one will shake a little bit because it's a little bit too small for the ball, but it will mostly remain in here. Usually, probably, could be. So, and you connect a wire to this or something or whatever, and you have a wrecking ball or something, yeah, which you can connect stuff to. Can be very useful. Okay, so let's just go to vehicle mode, reset vehicle, and get back to its back to the other cab. And now we have the destructive objects that are powered, like a spinning saw, a chainsaw, the cannons, bomb launcher, and magnet. Both the circle saw can become bigger. Also has the toggle options, normal options, and slider options. and you can make it bigger. Bigger does mean it has it stops quicker when it hits something because there's more weight behind it. So a smaller one is better for cutting stuff. I'm not sure the the chainsaw only has strength options and the activation mode, so no transformation. Here we have the cannon, or compared to the big cannon, a smaller cannon which has strength options, which will mean it shoots faster, farther away, and with more backlash, which you can try and mitigate by using a piston. Just trying to put some small tips and tricks in here while we're at it. So if you now use it, what's the E? There will be a little bit less backlash, though not a lot. This is of course a very light vehicle, there's no weight behind it now, so I think the gun weighs more than the cab, or close to it. Okay, higher speeds. The bomb launcher has a little bit more options. You have the tune strength, which is the normal strength, the bigger the explosion, and the faster it shoots out. And you have a delay timer, so it can shoot and just roll on the ground for a second, or you can use it somewhere in a vehicle, but you would have to shoot it within a second. Now we have the magnet, one of the funnest toys there is. Very cool. You can make this, you can choose how it turns on. You have the E and Q to turn on. Of course you can change the put. You can do a toggle, a slider, normal. Slider is just, you can choose how strong it is. That doesn't work right now, that's broken. The dev is aware of it, and when he's back to work, I assume he will fix that. So you can reverse the buttons, what does what, and the strength of course you can change. Very useful, very cool. Break stuff with, you can make very fun stuff. Now we come to the joints options. That has the suspensions, different forms of suspensions, kind of the standard, a more bigger suspension with also an option to become much longer. I don't think, this one has no change options. This one can become way longer, which you can also use for mounting cannons better. The standard suspension and no change, just strength and connection points. And then we have the chain link. This is kind of your standard chain link in games. Just you can make kind of a rope out of chains, or just a chain rope. This is nice and strong. This will not break. You are able to pull the chains apart, which gives glitchy effects, which can be cool. But they will always come back together because they're more like a normal part of the build, unlike ropes, which we'll cover in a bit. We have the rubber pivot. This is kind of a bendable part. If you push against this, it will bend. You can tune the strength. I've tried to use this for a crossbow, does not work. We have the pivot spring. This is more like the name already says it is a spring-loaded pivot. I haven't used this one yet. I might use that. Try that for a bow, but let's continue. We have the free pivot. This is just a non-powered, though you can make it how do you say that? More slower moving. Make it more resistant. Yeah, more resistant to the bending. Socket ball. I must admit I haven't used this one so much. I'm not completely sure what this does yet. Oh, I think it's a where the free pivot is a one direction turning. This is all directions. This is a free spinning part. Yeah, I thought this might be something you could release, but a socket more like a 360 turning until you reach the edge, of course. Yeah. Okay. We have the free swivel. This is also, I think, free spinning with resistance. Like the free pivot, like the free socket, but this is just in a spinning direction. we have the locked connector. Again, something I haven't used a lot of. Not completely sure what this one does. What does it say? Does it say anything? No. Okay, let's just move along. You can always test, of course, for yourself. We have the breakable connector. This is just if there is enough power on this, then it will break. I haven't found much use for that yet. And the release. This is always, of course, very useful. I think this is a one-time release and let go. So that you press a button and it lets go. And there you go, with a little bit of power behind it. Also with a 1 second delay on it. You know, you could use that. Maybe click one button and then this will release later. Maybe gives you time to activate a thruster before you fire it off. Yeah, not maybe, sure. Okay, these are all the cable-based rope things. How to use it? Very simple. You connect it to the part you want. You can use the orange things to connect the rope. I think without anything on it, it goes right here. I think you can, however, just... And that's not what I was clicking on, I think, but who knows. If you do this and this, and you can just say delete and go. Where's the rope? These are ropes with different properties, so you can go farther than what the rope itself says. You have all kinds of different ropes. You just have to try and read the description. Less flexible than a heavy rope. And cable base. Heavy rope. More a stiff rope, more flexible than a cable. I don't know how that works. Stiff but more flexible. Hey, whatever. The bungee base, yeah, that's just bungee cord. So if you want to make something bounce, but there's not a lot of power behind it as far as I can tell. Yeah, okay, now you can also change all your inputs, like I said. You can reset part control so it goes back to standard. So if you have put it on E, reset part control and it's back to the standard button. You can assign a part, we're already on that. You can remap inputs, so you can just say I want W to be 1, I want it to 2, 3, whatever you want. You can also reset that here again. The controller inputs, if you have a controller, you can use that. You connect your Xbox or PlayStation controller, both work these days without any needed software, so that's nice. But I'm on a keyboard, so I'm gonna stay with that. And I think we covered almost everything. I think I'm gonna leave this here. If you want any building tricks or anything else, I can show you guys some stuff. Just remember, you can clip a lot in this game. So if you have connection points ending in the same space, you can still build there multiple times if you manage to reach the connection point with your mouse. I can make a small example that's a little bit too small. Let's see. For instance, for thrusters, if you want to add multiple thrusters to a single space. Oh, and I almost forgot the very important part. Okay, you can just put this here and turn it. Put another one. You have to, yeah. Here, look, another part. Move it downwards. Try to change your settings before you turn it, because you don't know what you're touching anymore after it's turned in there. So you might as well change it while you go. So make strength and then turn it. And so on. So now you have 4 thrusters in the space of. Now we have 4 thrusters in the space where 1 will be. And as long as there are not moving parts, it will have no issues. If you try this with hinges, servos, whatever, they will start bending and all that kind of stuff, because, you know, there's a force being applied here. So now you can just fly off into the sky. Yeah. Oh, almost forgot. Yeah, like I said, all moving parts can be enhanced with the overdrive. Almost all. I think the balloon does not work. I'm not sure if the dev is going to do that or not. But if you put a thruster on there, you'll see it's overdriven. From what I understand, this will double the power. So it gives you even more power than you had before. So that's 2 thrusters in the spot of 1 without clipping. There you go. Same thing for I don't know if you take a piston, normal piston, max 3 piston on overdrive, and let's put some pointy things on there, and that's the arrow keys. Yeah, okay, and not go to there. It will be faster, but not like that. I mean more like, in this case, oscillation is a good one to see how fast everything is. It will just become stronger and faster. As you can see, yeah, with unpowered, it's fast, overdriven, way faster. So, same for wheels, tank, threads, all those kinds of stuff. So, well, that's my tutorial for instruments of destruction. I hope you guys liked it. I hope you guys will like the video. And I'll see you guys in the next one. And then we're going to go over more building tricks in the build mode itself. But we don't want this video to become too long. And we're already almost on 40 minutes. Woo. Okay, see you guys.